Guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and today's video is our 5th installment into our Tactics and Strategy series where we're going to be taking a look at just how to play Soviet mid to high tier destroyers. In this game, I am in my tier 8 Soviet destroyer, the Tashkent. I'm divisioned up with my buddy ElasticSpyder in his tier 8 premium German battleship, the Tirpitz, and we're playing some domination here on the map Trap. So, Soviet mid to high tier destroyers. We're going to start at, I'd say, tier 6 with the Ognevoi, and just talk about them all the way up to the tier 10 Khabarovsk. So, what do you need to know exactly about Soviet destroyers? Well, compared to the Americans, and we're going to compare them only to the American destroyers because those are definitely the two main gunboat destroyer lines in the game. However, I believe that the German DDs, which will be upcoming sometime in the near future, might shift the meta a little bit. But regardless, let's talk about them. The American destroyers are known for their close quarters knife fighting ability. They generally have a faster reload, and at the higher tiers, an even much faster reload. They have a much faster turret traverse, and they're more maneuverable. But what they do not have is the gun performance. These Soviet destroyers, starting with the, I'd say, Nevny at tier 5, but really starting at the Ognevoi at tier 6, you get the typical Soviet traits, where A, you have a really fast top speed. As you can see by the speed indicator on the bottom left, I'm at full speed and I'm approaching 43 knots. This is something that American DDs can only dream of, and that's even with the speed boost activated. Another thing is that the gun performance, like I mentioned earlier, Soviet destroyers have some of the fastest shell arcs, velocities of any destroyers in the game. Again, I don't know if that's going to change when the German destroyers come out, but we'll see. And compared to the American ones with the 127mm 38 caliber guns that they use, those things are absolutely worthless at shooting at long range, whereas Soviet destroyers are those kind of very pesky, almost light cruisers, quite frankly, that are able to stick at arm's distance and keep the combat just far enough away where they're able to get, over their sluggish maneuverability and utilize their fast top speed to be that very annoying guy that sits at about 10 to 12 kilometers, rains high explosive shells on the targets, and uses AP when available. Now, there's a few mistakes that I'm going to make in this game, and here is one of them, and you're going to see just how the maneuverability of this Tashkent can get you into a little bit of trouble. There's an enemy aircraft carrier in the game, and his bombers are certainly coming my way, so I decided to deploy my smoke and go to a full stop, but because this thing takes so long to slow down, and again, you'll start to notice this with the Ognevoi, by the time that I finally get undetected into the smoke, the carrier drops on me and does just about 5,000 points of damage, sets multiple fires, breaks a whole bunch of modules, and I basically lose 5,000 hit points for nothing. Now, another thing compared to American DDs is that you generally have a sizable hit point advantage, and on my Soviet destroyers, I do run with the hit points for one of the 3 tier 4 skills. I go with a 4x3 build as championed by fellow YouTuber Flamu, who plays on the European server, and also my buddy Puddin, who gave me the idea for it. Basically, what a 4x3 build is that you say screw it to the concealment on your Soviet destroyers. These things get outspotted by kilometers compared to both American and Japanese destroyers that are currently in the game. So as such, there's no real point in trying to buff the concealment range on your Soviet DDs, because buffing it will get it to go down from around 8 kilometers to around 7.5, maybe a little less. But you're still going to be getting outspotted by such a large margin that there's really no point in trying to buff it. So I go with the hit points, I go with Demolition Expert, another tier 4 skill to get the fire chance up by 3%, which I believe makes it go up to 11% on these guns that the Tashkent has, and it also starts with the Kiev at tier 7. And then for the third one, Advanced Firing Training to get a little bit better anti-aircraft performance. So going with a 4x3 build really just improves your gun performance to an unparalleled degree amongst destroyers. And as you can see here on targets at closer ranges, you can really utilize your armor piercing. Now, as you've noticed throughout the first part of this replay, I've been going at full speed whenever I'm not sitting in smoke, wiggling around, and since I'm sticking it just far enough away, it still is a bit difficult for those enemy ships to hit me. Now, here at this point, I have moved down into Objective Alpha, and we have secured it some time ago. We also have Objective Charlie, so we do have the early lead with one enemy ship destroyed, 413 to 286. I'm now going to gauge this Hachaharu, and this is definitely a solid tactic to use in your Soviet DDs. However, maybe mistake number 2. I probably shouldn't have gotten this close to the Hachaharu, but you're going to see here how if you get too close, your maneuverability is just not like an American one. You're not going to be able to dodge the majority of the shells that are coming back at you. And even going up in a 1v1 fight versus a Japanese DD, they do have higher damaging, high explosive shells, as you're going to see here. I'm going to take some pretty decent damage from this tier 6 now Japanese destroyer, the Hachaharu. I'm going to slightly turn away, however, and get all my firepower to bear. The Tashkent has a reload of around 4.5 seconds. seconds. And like I said earlier, not as fast as the American one, but it still puts out a very respectable DPM. I continue to hit the Hatsuharu with decent salvos, but I am getting chipped away kind of at a decent rate. And there's quite a few enemy ships that are in front of me as well. My smoke is back in about 5 seconds. Do manage to land a solid hit on the Hatsuharu, and this next salvo going down range will secure kill number 1. There we go. First ship destroyed, about 30,000 damage done. And as you can see here, there's a whole glutton of enemy ships. And again, I do not want to get to close quarters knife fighting range with this thing. So I'm going to launch my torpedoes, which on the Tashkent have a range of about 8 kilometers, and I'm going to turn away. Now here is definitely mistake number 2. I use my speed boost because I figure, okay, it's only the Arizona that's going to be able to get any decent shots at me, but then the Ognevoi that was there is going to continue to shoot at me, so I make the mistake of deploying both my speed boost and my smoke. So mistake number 2, and as you can see, because I'm within the 10 kilometers, which I say is standard, I'd say that's probably the range that you want to get the closest to enemy ships at. I'm taking quite a bit of damage. Now, I do have the hit points to sort of tank that damage, so to speak, but I've lost a lot of unnecessary hit points here at the beginning of the game. But now that I'm in smoke, I'm going to back up, and I'm going to continue to hit this Arizona. One of my torpedoes launched into the smoke did manage to hit the Ognevoi, so of course, if he gets spotted, I will be shooting at him. As the Arizona turns broadside, I switch to armor piercing, and right at the second, the Ognevoi gets spotted at 4.5 kilometers. You can see the armor piercing damage on the side of the Arizona, though, 2,400 with the first salvo, and over 3,000 with the next one. I had armor piercing loaded for my next salvo against the Ognevoi, do over 2,000 damage. It doesn't matter whether you're using AP or HE, it deals just a crap load of damage at point-blank range. I continue to shoot at the Ognevoi, as clearly he is the biggest threat, and with my next salvo out, I get kill number 2. Second enemy destroyer killed, 57,000 points of damage, and we have a commanding lead. And now I make mistake number 3, using the widespread on your torpedoes. This is something that it doesn't matter what nation you're trying to use. You never want to do widespread on targets that are at close range, but I guess just in the moment, I have a tendency to do this at very bad times. But anyway, you can see here the armor piercing. Now, this is something that an American destroyer just would not be able to do. You can see the armor piercing just slamming home into the side of the Gneisenau, and there's been multiple rolls of over 3,000 damage. If you hit above the belt, but below the deck, right into that thin part of the armor, and also if you hit some of the anti-aircraft weaponry, you see there consistent damage of over 2,000, and right there 2,600 after a 2,400 salvo, more of them going. And as my smoke decides to run out at a very inopportunistic time, I decide to speed up. Now, one thing, and like I said earlier, you want to be kiting, and you want to be using your speed advantage to be able to move away from enemy ships and make it very difficult to hit you. As I speed up out of the area, there is going to be an enemy Atlanta that appears right off my stern at 8 kilometers as I manage one torpedo hit on the Gneisenau. Now, the Atlanta carries the same exact armament as virtually all the destroyers of the Americans from Tier 5 and up, those 127/38s, but they have an extremely lazy shell flight. And as you can see here, just simply shifting left or right just a little bit and utilizing my speed allows me to dodge the majority of the shells that are incoming from the Atlanta. And now that I have re-engaged these ships behind me at a more opportunistic distance, I'm now going to continue to fire at the Gneisenau as I'm running away. And this range that you have combined with your shell velocity is something that American destroyers just cannot deal with. If you're able to, or I should say not if you're able, but if you unfortunately come across an American DD at point-blank range, the immediate thing you should do is pop your speed boost and turn away, because it'll make it infinitely harder for him to hit you as you're running away. And as you can see here, this Atlanta has been shooting at me for almost a solid minute now, and he just hasn't really come close with many of the shells. I do only have 5,500 hit points, as the Nagato shoots his forward turrets at me as well, but so far I'm up to 93,000 damage, 2 ships killed, and of course the assisted base cap. We have a commanding lead, but this game is going to get a bit more hairy. We are certainly not out of the water yet. Now I say I make mistake number 4 and I use my smoke. One thing that I completely forgot about is the Atlanta a few patches ago got the radar. I believe it's 8.5 kilometers on the range, so I can't sit here in the smoke and let that Atlanta close the distance. So I wasted my last smoke, and I'm pointing out these mistakes, even though this is going to end up being a great game, because I want you guys to see what exactly not to do. Now, from here on out, I'm going to play it almost flawlessly on the baiting tactic of being able to be like a German cruiser, like the Rune with the 2 rear turrets, where you're just kiting away and being able to deal damage while the enemy ships have a very difficult time hitting you. I set a fire here on the Nagato, and again, more shells from the Atlanta are flying in, and it just makes it very difficult for him to be able to hit me. He does manage 1 shell on the rear, but hey, if I'm only losing a couple hundred points of damage every now and then, that's certainly okay. I keep on getting some base defense ribbons, just cracked 100,000 points of damage, and I'm using my armor piercing at the side of the Nagato, and you're going to see here that the armor piercing, even at 11 kilometers against the sides of even battleships, is able to do a ridiculous amount of damage. Shells falling in on the Nagato. We'll see what kind of sweet damage we can get here. And there we go, 24, all over 3,000 on that last salvo. Pick up the Confederate, and now I decide to swing back towards him, and as you can see, I'm just swinging left and right, backwards and forwards, just making myself about as hard to hit as I possibly can. This Nagato has had every single shell miss, and again, the majority of the Atlanta shells continue to fall harmlessly off my aft end. Unfortunately, the Gneisenau is going to take the kill on the Nagato, so I will not get kill number 3, but once again, as I'm turning away from the Atlanta, he is not able to hit me. Now, I am within 10 kilometers, and like I mentioned before, this is not ideal, but you can still make it work, and I do have my speed boost activated, and even while I'm wildly maneuvering, I'm keeping up near 40 knots, which just makes it all but impossible for those American DDs and the Atlanta in this case to be able to track me. And while I'm doing that, all this damage that I am piling up on the enemy team is pretty sweet, to be honest with you. 122,000 points of damage now, and there's still plenty more to be done. 782 to 283 is the score now, but the enemy team is going to slowly start killing our ships. He only has 2,300 points of health left, and he gets taken out. So, with just under 10 minutes left in the game, if I were to die right now, this would be a fantastic result. Yes, quite a few mistakes have been noted, but the majority of the time I've been spent in this thing has just been at range, utilizing the high explosive. 12 fire set already, 268 shell hits, and again, please do not forget about the armor piercing. So as I get a little closer to the Scharnhorst, I am closing distance, getting somewhat uncomfortably close, but as you can see here, he is not paying any attention to me at the moment, and as long as he's not paying attention to me, I'm going to continue to pepper his superstructure with the high explosive. Now, one really, really important thing that I must stress when you're going up against American destroyers and your Soviet DDs is the fact that because you do not have the rate of fire to go against them, and you don't have that much of a sizable advantage in your high explosive, you will get your hit points taken away very quickly. Now, I know I haven't engaged any American DDs in this game, as there weren't any, but I'm just saying, if that Hachiharu was an American destroyer at the beginning when I killed, when he was about 6.5 kilometers away, I probably would have already been dead by now, because he would have been able to easily hit me over and over and over again, just as the Scharnhorst did. He got about a 2,500 salvo, and only one shell hits and penetrates right underneath the turret, and I'm only left on 229 health, so I have to be excruciatingly careful from here on out. One more shell from pretty much anything, and I'm going to be dead. The enemy team, they are trying to capture A, as that Scharnhorst is doing. They still have control of B, and they are having some ships move up towards C as well. We only have 6 ships left, while they have 5. 779 to 311 is the score. 140,000 points of damage as I secure the high caliber and get my 6th base defense ribbon. Very solid stuff. Make that 7. And I'm actually using a bit of an American DD tactic right here. I am using the island to keep me undetected while I'm continuing to get shots into the side. Again, this is something that I do not recommend, but because of the situation that I put myself in, I was forced to play that hand. Unfortunately, we lose 2 ships in quick succession, and now all of a sudden the enemy team has a 5-4 advantage, and again, they're about ready to capture C. There is going to be a ship moving on there momentarily. So at this point, my survival is completely paramount to the success of this game. I see a Bismarck at 13.8 kilometers. The Tashkent has a range of around 14 kilometers with AFT and BFT on the ship as well, and it's fantastic, let me tell you about that. Being able to shoot at these kind of ranges just makes this thing so deadly. Unfortunately, there is an almost full health Benson heading up to sea, so if he was to come down here, we would be in a world of trouble. And again, right here, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter whether you have 229 hit points or you have your full complement of hit points. Staying at this kind of range, 10 to 12, 10 to 13 kilometers, utilizing your guns, and waiting for him to aim at you. I'm going in a straight line, and as soon as he shoots his guns, I immediately pull hard to port, and all of his shells are going to land harmlessly off my starboard side. So, very good stuff, as more shells actually fly in from another enemy Scharnhorst that tried to shoot at me. And again, this kind of kiting thing, it's life or death. In the early 20th century, the first Sea Lord of the Royal Navy, Sir Jackie Fisher, was quoted as saying when developing the battle cruisers as we know them, that speed is armor. Well, in the case of your Soviet DDs, speed is not just armor, speed is literally life or death. And while that may be a slogan for all destroyers, these Soviet ones in particular, they can just use their speed to get in really crappy situations really quickly. I guess you could compare it similarly to Soviet and Japanese cruisers is they generally have the speed advantage tier for tier, and you can get yourself in really crappy situations by just overextending yourself way too far. And as you saw there at the beginning of the game, getting hit by the planes for 5,000 damage and getting some very unnecessary damage from that Hasaharu. And the Arizona too. I just stretched myself out too far. But the last, 6-7 minutes of gameplay, I've toned it down quite a bit and stayed at range and showed you just how effective these things can be when you're kiting. And this is probably going to be the perfect example right here of how I'm able to help my Scharnhorst friend out without actually risking the life of my ship to a substantial degree. 828 to 399. The enemy team is about to capture objective Charlie, and the Bismarck and the Benson will be coming down here to A. So we really got to get this Gneisenau killed very quickly. As I shoot my guns, you can see here, however, American DDs, they are able to stealth fire from decent ranges. Soviet destroyers are not. The Gneisenau shoots his 2 forward turrets at me, and I continue to shoot, turn back to starboard, and I'm going to be able to outrun his shells as a couple of them land off the starboard side. And I am just being this absolutely annoying, pestering beast, staying at range, landing shell after shell after shell. And even if the damage is unspectacular, the fire damage and the HE does add up over time, and I continue to pepper rounds into his superstructure. Enemy planes are on the way, definitely coming for me and the Scharnhorst. He shoots his forward guns at me. He's not even bothering to try and kill the friendly Scharnhorst that's in front of him. And once again, I'm able to turn and get out of the way. And being at around 12 kilometers or so, it just makes life so much easier for me to be able to dodge the shells. I know I'm harping on it, but trust me, you can see the results are clearly packing up very nicely. 151,000 points of damage. Unfortunately, my buddy in the Scharnhorst is about to get hit by 2 torpedoes right there, and he dies. But I did set 2 more fires on the Gneisenau. He's going to burn to death. I pick up kill number 3, 155,000 points of damage. But unfortunately, these planes are going to come in and kill me. Yep, unfortunately, I bite the dust. Wow, what a performance here in the Tashkent. We do go on to win the game, albeit it was quite harrowing. But I really hope that showed you guys just how effective Soviet destroyers can be when they are top tier or when they are just being very, very difficult to kill. Sorry guys, I forgot to take screenshots of the post-battle results, but nonetheless I shot down 3 planes, registered 15 fires off of 331 shell hits and 2 torpedoes hit for a grand total of 155,000 points of damage, 1 assist to base cap, 3 ships destroyed. I picked up a Confederate and a high caliber, had 8 base defense ribbons, and ended up with just short of 2,900 base XP. So I really hope that gameplay just showed you how to get the most out of your Soviet destroyers, and I also really, really hope that the mistakes that I made in the game and pointed out will show you just how not to play them, and the good parts of the gameplay showed you exactly what you need to do. Remember, stay at range, use your speed, shoot at targets of priority, and do not make yourself an easy target for cruisers and battleships, and do not get in knife fights with Japanese or specifically American destroyers. I hope this replay and this video helped you guys out. Please consider giving the video a like. It really helps the channel. With that being said, the Sneaky Snake here for Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, signing off. Have a great day, guys.